Have you ever wondered why you seem to forget your pain when you're absorbed in another activity? It's an intriguing question, isn't it? Picture this: you're engrossed in a captivating movie, battling foes in a dynamic video game, or lost in the pages of a riveting novel. Suddenly the nagging headache or that persistent backache seems to fade into the background, as if put on hold. Isn't it curious how our minds can momentarily sideline discomfort when we're deeply engrossed in something else? This fascinating phenomenon isn't just a figment of your imagination. It has a name: distraction-based analgesia. Yes, that's right. Distraction-based analgesia, a fancy term for our brain's incredible ability to dial down pain when we're preoccupied with another task. So what's happening in our brains when we're too busy to notice pain? Let's dive into the science behind it. To understand why we forget pain, we first need to understand how we feel it. It all starts with these tiny little fellas called nociceptors. These are specialized nerve endings scattered throughout our body, and they act as our frontline soldiers in detecting any form of tissue damage or potential harm. When these nociceptors detect harm, they generate electrical signals. These signals, like a distress call, are picked up by nerve fibers, the information highways of our body. The nerve fibers then transport these signals to the spinal cord. It's like a fast-paced relay race, with the baton being the pain signal and the runners being the nerve fibers. Now, once the pain signals reach the spinal cord, they are sent up to our brain. But it's not just any part of the brain. They head to a specific area called the pain pathway. This pathway is a network of interconnected regions that process these signals and interpret them as pain. But here's the interesting part. The brain doesn't just blindly accept these signals. It's like a gatekeeper, deciding which signals are important enough to be perceived as pain. This selective process is why we may not feel pain immediately after an injury, or why a gentle touch doesn't hurt us. This process is also influenced by a myriad of factors. Our emotions, our attention, and even our expectations can alter how we perceive pain. For instance, if we're scared, the same injury may seem more painful. That's because our brain is interpreting the pain signals in the context of our fear. So, the brain's pain pathway is not just a passive receiver, it's an active participant, shaping our experience of pain based on the signals it receives and the context in which it receives them. It's like a sophisticated DJ, mixing the tracks of pain signals and emotions to create the unique soundtrack of our pain experience. Now that we know how pain is perceived, let's explore how distraction comes into play. When we're engaged in an activity that requires our attention, our brain has less capacity to process pain signals. This intriguing phenomenon revolves around a concept known as cognitive load. Cognitive load refers to the mental effort required to process information or complete a task. Now imagine your brain as a computer with a finite amount of processing power. When it's running multiple programs simultaneously, the performance of each one is likely to decrease. This is where the power of distraction comes into play. Just as a computer might slow down when running too many applications, our brains can only handle so much cognitive load at once. When we're absorbed in an activity that demands our attention, there's less processing power available for other tasks. And one of those tasks is the perception of pain. Now, let's take a step back and think about it. Have you ever noticed that when you're engrossed in a gripping novel or a challenging puzzle, you're less aware of the ache in your back or the twinge in your knee? That's because these engaging activities are taking up a significant portion of your brain's processing power, leaving fewer resources available for perceiving pain. This isn't just an interesting observation, though. It's a theory that's been backed up by numerous scientific studies. For instance, researchers have found that people who are mentally engaged in a task report lower levels of pain than those who aren't. Other studies have shown that distractions can significantly reduce the perception of pain in patients undergoing painful medical procedures. So, it seems that our brain has an innate ability to prioritize tasks based on their importance. And when we're deeply engaged in an activity, our brain deems the processing of pain signals less important, effectively reducing its intensity. So, next time you stub your toe, perhaps pick up a puzzle or a good book. It might just help you forget the pain.